What's up, world? Welcome to a special edition episode of That MOE Show. I am your host, Hitch Montana, with my co-host.
Cadman.
Hey, appreciate y'all tuning in with us for this one. Now, as you guys see on the screen, or for those who are listening, we've got a special guest in the building. Now, this guy, he is not new to That MOE Show. He's been on here several times with us. He is rapper, actor, man of the community, holds down the L, as you have seen with his merchandise. He holds up the L. Cad's got the hat. Cad holds him down strong. We always appreciate him being a part of the show. Introduce yourself to the world and tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, man. I go by the name of Jules. I do a few and I do many of those things. I try to at least. But yeah, I'm an artist from Lakewood, Florida, and yeah, man. I'm just I appreciate you guys having me on here. I'm like, again, I think I said this the last time. I'm like the third host now. At some point, I need my name to go on something like the most so with friend or with so and so. We got to elevate to that point as.
Listen, you at this point, you're legendary to the show.
You're like the cousin at this point.
Yeah, you're legendary to the show. If we ever had a Hall of Fame, you would definitely be first ballot. You're there already.
I'm the first inductee. Look at that, man.
Yeah. Now you are in running with another artist, but another L Town artist. But listen, you are right now. You are the king of That MOE Show. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you giving us this opportunity to talk with you. You have a new project coming out. Something special for the world to hear. Now, I know it's been some time since you released the last album. You are now coming out with a new project. I'm excited. I know we got to hear it first. We got to hear it first with maybe some other people, but I gotta say, this was a fantastic album through and through. Being able to listen to it, hear your mindset, hear the growth, because we got to interview you during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So we got to hear the changes between now and 2 years ago, and the body of work is now coming out. What can you say about this new album that's about to drop for everybody?
Oh man, this album started for me a few years ago, and for me it's like a collection of where I've been at for the last few years. There was a period of time where I kind of was at a low point, and so I just wanted to make something that's very reflective of just my journey and those years that I went through to get to where I'm at now. Usually that's what I like to do on all my albums. So I try to encapsulate my experiences and my times within a certain time period. So I try to make them like a marker for my life. So when I go back and listen to them, I see, hey, this is where I was at this time. And I like to try to measure that and see the growth or see the changes that I am as a man, as an artist, as a son, a brother. So yeah, man, I think this was just a very harsh growing period for me in my life. But I felt like if I can document this and if I can if I can just bottle it up and make something, beautiful out of it, I felt like some of the lessons that I've learned throughout that time would be helpful for others. So yeah, man, this album is just kind of like a mirror, just showing my life through a period of time.
Now, is there anything significant about this album compared to the last one outside of the growth?
Yes, a lot of producer myself. So for those who don't know, I make a lot of my beats and things like that, along with other people that do help. This project, I remember specifically going into it, was in a time in my life where I kind of had a little bit of resource, and I didn't really have too many people to lean on at that time. And so with this project, I hired album myself. And so this album just being able to do it like self-sufficient, you know what I mean? So I remember starting the project and thinking, wow, okay, I made, one beat here, started, creating the music, and I'm like, okay, I got something going right now. And that energy just kept going on, and it was just something in the back of my mind, was just trying to prove myself, like, you know what? Try to do as much as you can. Collection of other producers. I got the name of King, and him and I kind of molded the album along with other producers. But this one, it pretty much started off really trying to spearhead this project. So that was a big, big difference. It was more so, on me, and then but yeah, man, starting off with this project, it was just me turning out a whole bunch of music on my own. And so I was really proud of that, just, taking that album on my own.
So you mentioned earlier there was you as well as a few other producers. Can you name some of the producers
Yeah, for sure.
on this album?
Avila 11, shout out to my super dope. So Avila 11, I got my guy Jonan on 2 tracks. Made, which is also my engineer. He actually helped in and pitched in as far as some production. Drumming as well. I worked with him on the last project, so he got a joint on there. And I actually reached out to a guy. He's based off of Philadelphia. His name is DC Music, and I've always followed him on IG, and I just was a fan of his music. He's really dope on the keys and stuff. And I reached out to him, and he actually blessed me with a track that was just the perfect piece for the album. So I don't think I'm missing anybody. Oh, and also my guy Dallas Smith. He played he played the horns on a track, and he also lent his hand on another track as far as playing some keys as well. So Dallas Smith, he did some work on there. And I don't think I'm leaving somebody out. If I am, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that is everybody. Yeah. And then my guy Scott Haggins. Haggins. I'm sorry. He did a little bit of something on there as well. So that's pretty much it. I think it's like 9 total, including me.
So it sounds like you got a pretty wide range of sound that people are going to be able to get a listen to with 9 different producers on there. It sounds like something that's in my opinion, it sounds like there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody. Is that what was that part of what you were looking for going into the album, having something that was for everybody to gravitate to?
Oh yeah, I mean, I try to do that with every project. I try to have a well-balanced album. I feel like there's a certain bag that I get into, or a certain element where is more of the storytelling, introspective, records, and I feel like people love when I do those records. So I try to make sure that I have, a couple of those on there. I got the ones where it's just, hey, I'm gonna get bars off. So I got those on there. I got the just more of the fun records. There's a little bit of singing on there, just a little bit, and I try to bring a little bit of a groove to it as well. So yeah, I try to bring as much as I can, man, to entertain as much as possible, but at the same time stay within what I do best. So yeah.
And what was the inspiration behind the album? I mean, NIWIS sounds like an album that I would say, in my opinion, it sounds like an album that you want to sit back and reflect on. Life, drama, just many different things that, on a day-to-day basis that we go through as people, as adults. But when you were creating this, what was the inspiration that led to this
So
album?
that's a loaded question. I'm gonna try not to be too long, but so it was a few conversations that I was having. So it was at a point in time in my life where I didn't have a job, finances were low, like I was pretty much broke, to be honest with you. I think I took a screenshot of it, like of my bank account. I think at the time I started writing that album, or during the process of it, I had like $0 in my checking. I think I had like 3 cents or something crazy like that in my savings. And I just remember like, wow, okay, I've never been at this low point in my life. And there was just a lot of things that was going on mentally. And I just was kind of questioning like my journey in life. Like, man, how did I get to this point? How do I get out of this dark place or this low that I'm in. Is anyone else, you know, going through the same things that I'm going through? And it was just a lot of just kind of like, you know, looking to the left and the right of me, like, wow, okay, am I the only one in this spot? And so I figured, I was like, you know what? I'm always, again, my music always very reflective of what I'm going through in my life. So I just started to write about it because music is obviously, you know, therapeutic for me. And so I just was writing about the things that I was going through. And it just, you know, I remember I got to a point where um, I had a conversation with one of my close friends, Poe, and we were just kind of talking about life things, man. And from there, it just kind of, I was like, you know what, I need to make this into an album. Just some of the journey that I was going through, and then so that's one aspect of it, and then the other aspect of it, you know, I was sitting there thinking, you know, how can I piece this together and do something that's unique with it? And the Twilight Zone is like my favorite show of all time. I said this before, but my dad introduced me to that show when I was a kid, and loved it, and I've always watched it. And I just kind of like Rod Serling. I'm big on writing, and Rod Serling was like a great writer. And so I don't remember what I was doing, but it just hit me one day. I was like, man, wow, like what if I do something that's kind of Twilight Zone esque with it? And that just kind of took its place, and I just ran with it. And then at the same time as well, around that time I was working on it, I had went to the Dali Museum. And I just fell in love with Salvador Dali's artwork. And it was always interesting to me how he would take an image and you would think it would be one way, and then it turns up being something different. And so I just thought that the whole just things aren't what they appear kind of aspect of it was just really cool. And that just kind of just, you know, all those things just kind of came together, and then I just kind of ran with it with the album. And then, so yeah, so those are the inspirations of the album.
Now, so I hear you say that in this album it was a journey. It,
Mhm.
it's taken many years to write this album. Not many years per se, but it took a few years to put this album together. Now, in the years that it took this album to put together, how do you separate what's album worthy from what's basically just real life? I mean, what's day-to-day life? Not real life, but day-to-day life. How do you separate what goes on to the album versus what I internalize and just deal with as what goes on in life?
That's a great question. And to be honest with you, I don't know how other artists would answer that, but for me, usually nothing is barely anything that's kind of off limits. And for me, so I would say this: whenever I'm writing something, I try to make sure that I'm writing it from a place where it's touching my soul. So, you know, if there's something that I'm going through in life and I decide to write about it, and it gives me this feeling of, oh man, I don't know if I should say that, or man, that's a little too deep. That's kind of personal. Whenever I get those feelings, I know, no, you need to keep this. You're on the right track. This is what people need to hear. Because I feel like whenever as artists, if we don't reach those levels, I feel like we're teetering the line of keeping it too surface. You know what I mean? And I feel like for me personally, that's a dangerous place to be in. I don't like to make music that's just kind of very surface. Everything doesn't have to be extremely deep and, you know, crazy storytelling, but for the most part, you know, if I'm writing something, I want to make sure that it reaches your soul and it impacts you and it touches you in a certain way, because that's the best music, the ones that you can connect to and feel. So if I'm writing something and I'm like, man, or if I'm going through something and I'm like, man, you know, this is something that's really bothering me, or this is something that's really affecting me in a certain way. I try to keep in mind, hey, you know, obviously I'm human. There's got to be somebody else who's going through this. And so if I'm writing about it and if it's making me feel a way where I'm kind of like, I don't know, I know I'm on the right path. So for me, I don't really think there's anything where I separate to say, hey, this is something I can say on the album and this I can't say on the album. I just kind of have to write, and then if I feel like, oh man, this really touched me, then it's gonna go on the album.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off that because there are some songs on here that have pretty deep cuts. They're pretty vulnerable. So whenever you make songs like that and you're going to release them, are you like nervous in any way? Is there any kind of like maybe miscomfort on how people will like perceive the song, or there's some stuff you go pretty deep in there, and like, is there like any kind of, like I said, like discomfort or like, okay, well, now people I may not know about certain situations that were happening in my life?
For sure, for all the time, man. That's funny because I had that situation happen on the field with intentions. You know, the first verse is me talking about just time away of trying to capture this goal of mine of being an artist, and not realizing that this time that I'm devoting to it, I'm also taking away from loved ones. You know what I mean? And me looking up and realizing like, I had a brother that was in prison, and realizing like, wow, I haven't wrote him in forever. You know what I mean? And I know he's just sitting in there and hoping that someone talks to him. He's yearning to see what the outside world looks like and to have those conversations. And I'm just over here just, head down, just doing whatever I need to do. So I remember when I was writing that album and some songs on there, I had to play for my mom and like, yo, mom, this is what I wrote. I hope everything's okay with this. And, asking for forgiveness if it wasn't okay. And the same thing with this album. There's songs, there's parts on here where things like damaged goods, when I'm telling a story about a situation that happened with my family and my mom and my dad, and I had to run that by my mom like, hey, this is this, I know this is a story that's not the greatest story to be told, what I mean, and it doesn't shine everyone in the best of lights, but this is something that really happened to us, and it affected me in a certain way, what I mean. And a lot of times when I play those, while I get ready to release those type of records, I'm like, oh man, I hope something good comes from it. But ultimately, I feel like if I'm vulnerable enough to share those things, what I mean, I feel like someone else has something like that too, then they can look at it and say, you know what, he was brave enough, or he was able to do this. I can either push through whatever I'm going through, or I can relate to him and I can see him in another light. Because at the end of the day, man, I'm like anyone else. So yeah, I just try to give those moments away and not try to hold on to them, because I feel like they're more beneficial when they're shared compared to just holding them in. But yeah, of course, I feel nervous all the time when I release those records.
Wow. What is album mode like for you when you get into that space and you're fully focused on putting together a body of work that you feel is sacred? Because I mean, like, for any content creator, any artist, that's to them, that's their baby. They hold it precious. There's certain things they're not going to release out to the world. There's certain things that they're not going to allow other people to tamper with and give their input on. When you get into that process, when you get into that album mode process, when you get into album mode, let me just put it like that. What is that like for you?
Uh, Album mode is funny, man, because um, so for me, when I get into it, it's like what you try to do is, normally when you're like, okay, this is time for me to create a project. I'm ready. I need to put something out new, and I feel inspired. For me, a lot of times it's it starts off, you kind of, it's almost like training wheels. You get on the bike, you start riding, you're just writing a few songs, and you're trying to take the direction of like, okay, where am I going with this? What do I want to tell to the world? What pieces am I trying to craft here? And then once you start getting the ball rolling, especially when you get in the groove, man, it's just like extremely dialed in, like mental space that you're in. And when I get into that, man, I just feel like things are just flowing. And a lot of times I'm very, like, I wouldn't say distracted, but I'm very like tuned in to what I need to do. So that's like late hours, what I mean, waking up early, producing, trying to knock out a bunch of beats at one time, like a bunch of beats within a small period of time. Writing very frequently, obviously, but yeah, it's like a really dialed in space. And usually when I get to that space though, or usually whenever I feel like okay, I'm in album mode, I've usually lived life. You know what I mean? Like I normally don't like to jump into it when it's just like, oh, okay, it's just, hey guys, time for an album. I normally like to take time and like, okay, I want to experience things. I want to go and travel. I want to go meet new people. I want to go have, great conversations, go have dinner out here and just talk about, growth and certain things that's just going on in the world. And whenever I have like that spark of like, okay, I have something, then I know, okay, this is album mode. And then from there, yeah, it's just the filling out process of exactly how I want to tell the story and where I want to go with it. But it usually comes at a point in time where I felt like I've lived enough and I've gathered enough information or experiences to actually deliver something to people.
When you sticking to staying into the album mode process, um, how do you choose a single for your album? With this one, I know it's Geronimo for this album, but how do you come to the deciding factor of what your single is going to be?
That's funny, man, because we've had some very interesting conversations about that. With the last album, Recall was one of the singles, and I remember I was just putting that out because I was like, hey, it's a feel good record, it's cool, you know, I think people will like it, and whatever. And it was almost like a guessing thing. It was just kind of like I'm gonna put this out here. I think people will really like it, and it really took to it. So for this one, the same thing happened with this one. I remember y'all probably look at me crazy, but I remember when I made Geronimo, I was a little unsure about it. I was like, I think it's cool. I like it. I got bars on there, but I was like, I don't know if people are gonna like it because it's a lot of rapping. Like it doesn't stop. Just one consistent, you know, all the way through. And so I was like, man, I think it's cool, but I don't know if it's gonna be like that. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll play some of the records for like close ones, and they'll be like, yo, I think this one's strong. This is one of the ones you got to go with. And that's what happened with this project. Um, with Geronimo, I played it for Poe, and he was like, man, he was like, this one feels really, really good. And I knew it felt good, but again, I was just a little bit like, it's not really any breaks in it, so but yeah, man, I just put it out there and was like, okay, well, we'll just go with this one and see what happens. And, you know, thank the Lord, it did what it did. And the second single on it was Part of No Favors. That one, when I was writing it, I just felt like that one just felt right. You know what I mean? It had a certain feeling to it. It had certain aspects, things that you can sing along with. There's things that I did intentionally in that record where it was like, hey, I feel like I can really win with this one. So that one just always felt good to me, with the hook to it, and just again some of the elements to it, man. I felt like it would be a perfect follow up to Geronimo. So and it was something a little bit different than what I'd done before. So yeah. So a lot of times it's just kind of throwing them out there and see what happens.
Yeah, so I remember when we first interviewed you, you had just released Geronimo. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to be able to just be a part of that journey, even with the growth of the single. To watch Geronimo grow to the point where now it's made it onto your new album. And then a part of the new album, you also have the second single to be to that goes along with it. Now, I know this may be kind of like a tough, or I'm sure this will be a really tough question to answer, but at this point in time, do you have a favorite song on the album?
Yeah, that's tough. It changes all the time. Um, yeah, right now though, I think what's in the top spot for me right now is probably On Me. Um, yeah, that I really, really, really like that one. That actually was the last record to get completed on the project was On Me. But yeah, but for a long time it was Ride With Me. But right now it's probably gonna be On Me. Yeah.
Cat, do you got a favorite track?
Honestly, man, I like Damaged Goods. I
Yeah.
like I like, let me think how to word it. I like where it went, and I like the vulnerability in the song, and I like I guess just the whole thing in general. I like that you went there, because I think, because what you talk about in there, a lot of, there's not, I don't think any songs off the top of my head really talk about that outside of, maybe a J. Cole song here or there. But it's a place that rap doesn't necessarily go. And I can appreciate that you went there, because I'm sure somewhere somebody has felt this before. And this is something where they could be like, okay, I'm not the only one. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And that was the whole point of that record. I figured you was gonna like that one. I know that's like right up your alley. But yeah, man. I mean, because with that record, man, I just remember it was just, again, it was a interesting time in my life, man. But um, it was so from like 2018 to like 2000, and really it was like 2018 to like 2021 was where a lot of this stuff, where a lot of the writing for the album came from. And that was like the period of time where I was like really working on the album to put it together. I was working on it obviously the beginning of this year, but that was more so just getting things mixed, getting it mastered, getting everything kind of tied up. But with that record, I remember when I wrote it, I was just going through just a not the best time in my life, and I was just kind of reflecting back, and I was just thinking like, man, like why do I feel the way that I feel, or why do I have the behaviors and the thoughts that I have? You know what I mean? And just as far as just with women and the choices that I was making, and just not doing the right things all the time. And I was just having a conversation again, and just kind of like peeling back the layers of like childhood, and like us as like black men, and how we grow up, and the things that we look up to, and the conversations that we have or privy to at a young age that we shouldn't be privy to. And I just started thinking, I was like, wow, like you don't really think about it, but like having those older people around you and talking to you about sex, and all the again, the women that they was involved with, and how they make it like this really cool thing, and you're like, oh wow, okay. You don't really realize like that stuff starts seeping into you. You know what I mean? And so then when you grow up, you start thinking, okay, well, this is what it's about. It's about being able to talk to all these women, and partake in this and that, and you know what I mean. And then I just started realizing like, wow, okay, I'm at this age now, and this started way back when I was, younger. You know what I mean? If I can really trace it back, and I was like, I'm sure this had an impact on me. And I'm just kind of dissecting some of the things and looking back on it, like, yeah, we wonder why a lot of relationships fail, or like, at least for me, I was wondering like, I see now why some of these things fail, and how I view the whole aspect of love is like it's tainted now in a sense. That's how I felt. It was like, wow, okay, I only see it this way. I only see it from this lens because this is what I was taught as a kid. Like, you don't have a girlfriend. You don't really fall in love. You just try to, mess around with as many women as you can, and try to be like this kind of this figure or whatever. So that was like the thing that was glamorized. So yeah, and it just played a part on my mental, and just kind of like, you know, just realizing like, wow, okay, these are issues that you know they're deeply rooted. And at that time, I felt so low, and I was like, wow, I feel like am I damaged goods? Is this something that I can overcome? You know what I mean? Like I've been these things that I've learned as a child has affected so many other people. You know what I mean? And So yeah, man, I just felt like I had to write about it. Like you said, I don't really hear too many people talking about it, you know what I mean? So I just figured why not me? You know what I mean? Because like you said, I know other people have these thoughts, so at least I know they have those behaviors because they all grew up in the same circles that I grew up in. You know what I mean? And maybe they're wondering why, why do I not love? Why do I only just see physical? And why do I behave this way? And it's like, well, I just try to at least offer up maybe a possible answer, and maybe that can help somebody in some form or fashion.
Staying there for a moment, you said there was a period from 2018 to 2021 where pretty much damaged goods formed itself.
Hmm.
Now, how do you keep that in its pure in its purest form, like meaning the feelings that you had throughout those 3 years, those 4 years, and to transferring it over into the studio and actually recording it? Do you put it down in your phone? Do you jot mental notes down for yourself? um do you sit in the studio and reflect back on it? What is the process of containing those feelings to the moment that you actually put it on an audio, I guess?
Yeah, and that can be challenging sometimes. So a lot of times, like if you're as an artist, if you have a certain subject that you're called to write on, sometimes it's difficult to write about it, not because you maybe didn't experience it. I mean, that could be a part too, but maybe not because you didn't experience it, but sometimes you have to try to take yourself and put yourself back into that mindset of where you were at that time when you had that feeling and try to capture those raw emotions that you had at that time. And some people are better at it than others. Um, for me, a lot of times what I like to do is whenever I'm going through something at that very moment, I try to write about it at that time. I don't really like to take too much time away from that feeling that I had and then write about it later. Now I have done that before, but usually, man, a lot of those songs, like Damaged Goods and things like that, that was like current at that time in my life in 2018. You know what I mean? That was like fresh, and so I just wrote about it at that time. And usually, when I'm going through something that's really impactful, and I'm like, wow, okay, this is obviously a growing moment, and this is obviously like a lesson that I need to learn in life. I don't know why, but my mind just starts churning at that point, and I just automatically start writing. I don't know why. That's like the first thing or one of the first things that I do. Is I just write about it. But um, those it can be difficult sometimes to try to capture those things when you're away from that moment. You just got to do your best to you know put yourself back in that same mindset of where you were at before and those same raw emotions and try to write them out. But for me, what I try to do is while I'm in it is when I try to write about it. And I feel like to me it comes out the best way. That it flows out easier, and I feel like the emotions and the words are more raw at that time. But obviously, in the second verse of Damaged Goods, that's a story when I was a little child. So um, that one was just me digging deep and just thinking about how scared I felt during that time. You know what I mean? And just thinking about I was already processing so many things about just like how I handle love and sex and women, when the first verse. So when I got to that second verse, I was already in the mental space of kind of just really poking at my character and poking at like how I've got to this way. And that just made me go into a mental space that allowed me to deliver those emotions and reflect back on that time. Because really, to be honest with you, the first verse was coming from fear as well. So it's like I tapped into fear of thinking, wow, who am I as a man, in a sense. And then that same fear just led me to think about the other times where I was afraid, and so that allowed me to still get that same raw emotion from a story that was so long ago.
Now it sounds like a lot of this was therapeutic for you, putting all of
Yeah.
this down for you. How much of a relief was it once you finished the album and you got to let a lot of that side of you go?
Man, listen, Cadmian knows, man. I've been talking about this project for a while, man, and man, it's good because it's like it's a huge relief just to straight up answer the question. But um, you hold these stories for so long, you know what I mean? And it's like these are things that are on my mind. Obviously, I got to write about them. I got to go and record them. I got to hear them back over and over and over. So um, it's obviously like a relief whenever you go from being in that moment of experiencing it and then writing it down on paper. That's a moment of like, oh, okay, cool. That was good to get that out. Then you got to hear it back over and over. So now you're almost living in that space, constantly and being reminded of those feelings and of that time. But whenever you're finally able to like finish it and complete it, and then allow it to be out to the world, it's like it's like this feeling of like transfer. It's like, okay, cool. Not transferring any like bad emotions or anything like that, but it's almost like a here, this is what I'm going, this is what I was going through, and allowing people to say, man, I appreciate that, or man, I really, thank you so much for writing this. Because I remember when I wrote Intentions off of the field, going back to that record again, when I was talking about not writing my brother for a long time. I had someone hit me up and was like, yo, man, thank you so much for doing that. I hadn't, I'm in the same situation as well. I got a brother that's in prison, and I haven't wrote him in a long time. So thank you for writing that. That really encouraged me to write him, and whenever you get those moments, you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, man, like now I feel like I can breathe a little, you know what I mean? Because it's tough when you have those feelings and those emotions and you're living with these records. It's like, again, you're replaying these things and you're going through them, and you've experienced these things. But once you've kind of had that connection with other people, it's almost like a crutch. It's almost like them, lending you a hand. It's like, you know what, I'm with you on this too, you know what I mean? And it makes you feel better. So finishing the album, man, was just a huge relief. One, because I've just been working on it for forever, but these are emotions and these are lessons that I've learned through this time, where it's like I know other people are going through it. So whenever it's out, hopefully, Lord's willing, people can relate to it, and we can have that moment of like, cool, man, I'm there with you, and that's like the biggest thing of all.
For sure, for sure. Now, I will say my favorite album. I mean, not my favorite album, but my favorite track on the album is I Four Flows. Yeah,
That was number 2 for me.
I should have
heavy,
known you would go with that.
heavy beat. Uh, great bars, great bars. Uh,
Appreciate it.
and it really just, for me, it reminds me of driving down I-4 between Tampa and Orlando, going back and forth, and either heading to the club or just anywhere late at night, and you just want to bump something. What can you say about that track in particular?
Oh man, and thank you. I appreciate that, because when I wrote it, that was the all honest intent when I wrote it. And I'm not just saying that because you said it. That's literally why I named that. I was like, man, I made the beat. That was one of the ones that I made early during that process of like, you know what, Jules, you're gonna make this whole project on yourself. I'm just gonna go gun ho with it. That was during early in that time period. And I just remember when I made the beat, and I started writing to it, and I was like, man, this feels like riding just on the interstate, going to a destination, and it's like I just want to turn this loud and just enjoy my time on the road. You know what I mean? And that's what it felt like to me. So, yeah, man, that one just honestly, I can't even give you no kind of cool, crazy stories like this happened and then I saw this and this made me. It's just honestly you know, that one just kind of came out the way that it did. It just I made the beat. I think I don't even remember. I don't even remember, but I don't remember how I fell upon that sample, but Earth, Wind and Fire is one of my favorite groups, of all time. So I was like, yo, I sampled them on the last project. I was like, man, if I could help it, if I can control it, I probably will sample them every album because and it's also a tribute to my dad as well because he loved Earth, Wind and Fire. He absolutely loved them. So every time I sample them, it's almost like, just paying, homage to my late father. So yeah, man, I heard the record and I was like, man, okay, I've never heard anybody flip this one before. So just sampled it, man, and it just turned out the way that it did. It just had this great feeling to it, just really good feeling to it. And so, yeah, man, I just wrote to it, and that was one of those records where it was just an open, free flowing thought song. It was just like one idea, one thought just kind of rolled and just kept me going to just keep writing, and I felt like it embodied that feeling of being on the road again and just having this open thought, and you're just riding, you're just thinking about things, and you're just kind of just just on roll. So that's just kind of how that one came about. But I do love that record a lot. I really really do. That one might be, I don't know, that's high up there on the list though for me.
I will listen. I will tell you. The moment I heard the sample, I texted Ken and I was like, "Yo!"
It
It
did
was
happen.
it was. I had probably sent him like three texts back to back to back. Right, right
That
when I
did
heard
happen. That
it.
is a
Right when
true
I heard
story.
it, because
Nice.
it was fire from the very jump. So I definitely appreciate you keeping the Florida at heart, the 863-407-813 at heart, and in there when you drop that one. But going back to the album as a whole, um, who executive produced the album?
So my engineer made, he did. And again, I'm gonna try to keep this short winded. My apologies, but he, I feel bad at sometimes because if he sees it, he's gonna laugh. But he definitely should have been an executive producer on the field as well. And so I fumbled on that one. I didn't have that listed or credited him for that. But man, he does so much, man. I'm so appreciative of him. I really am. I probably don't say that to him enough. I know I do say it to him, but I probably should say it to him more. This man is, not only my engineer and came on board at a time where I really needed an engineer, but man, this man has helped me with being better as a producer, being better as an artist, just being better as a person. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm going through certain things, man, and he'll just hit me with scripture. You know what I mean? Or he'll just be like, yo, you got to have more grace in this area, man. You got to make sure, you handle this way or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. He's always there to kind of talk with me and things like that. And with the field, man, we went through a period of time where we had to, remake that entire album. And he sat there and he had the patience to, help produce and hey, let's swap out this kick. Well, maybe this snare be better on this song, or maybe you should use this hi hat and put these strings on it, or I swap your strings out that you had and now I'm putting these strings. I think this will fit the record better. And he's helped elevate so many records, man. So he's been doing that since the field. And this project, it was the same. He didn't do a whole lot of producing. He didn't do as much as what he did on the field when it comes to like helping in that aspect of, hey, these sounds are better. This is a higher quality sound, or this sounds better. He didn't do that as much on this project. But he definitely had a hands on in a lot of things, whether it be, yo, I think this part right here needs a lift, or yo, I think on this section of the record, if you take this part out, man, this will help this breathe, this will help this feel better, or just even with mixing things. So yeah, man, he's the executive producer of the album. So but yeah, made my engineer, man. So shout out to him, man. I can't thank him enough.
How do you how do you put your trust, that much trust, into someone to make the pretty much the final decisions of your album and where you want it to go? Because ultimately you're allowing them to say, hey, I see your vision, or I see this point of view, maybe we should take it in this direction or that direction. Knowing that it's your body of work, though, knowing that it is something that you are trying to convey out to the rest of the world. So how do you allow yourself to give that person that amount of trust to go ahead and say, hey, I'm trusting in you to go ahead and guide us into the direction that I'm trying to go?
Man, that comes with time, and that comes with, it's just time and a bond. It's tough. Trust me, it's tough. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's times where we disagree on things, and it's like, hey man, I feel you on that, but I'm going this way. I know you trying to go this way. I'm going this way. So, but yeah, man, it's just we've been at this, man, since 2014, 2014. So you talking, 8 years that we've been at this thing. So I think he knows me at this point. Like he literally would hear stuff and say, you know what, that's a Jules record. You know what I mean? Cad, just like Damaged Goods. He hears those records and he's like, this is the pocket for you. Like this is like, he loves the other stuff. He loves the other records and everything. He's a real big fan of all those, but he knows when I'm shining, like when I'm really in my element on certain tracks. And he knows like this is the best sound for you. Like you're gonna shine on this. So I think just because of the amount of time we put in, and for the most part, it's crazy because I did name all those other producers that help with the track. I mean the album, excuse me. But for a long period of time, man, it was just me and Maeve, just us two in the trenches, you know what I mean, cooking up this album. Like, yo, man, we got something special, man. We got something, and we just me and him, and he would be the only one to hear it, and we'll just bounce ideas. But yeah, man, I think it's just the bond that we have, and just the time that we've spent over these years. He gets it, you know what I mean. He knows like this is where I'm going, and there's times where he might not quite see it, and it's like, yo, this is where I'm going, and I'll show him. He's like, oh, okay, I got you. I see where you're trying to take it. And so we have those moments too, but for the most part, he understands, and he's like, cool. I know the sound. I know what you're looking for, and that's just with time. So once you've built up, when you've been working with somebody for so long, um, again, there's times where I struggle with, being like, okay, cool, you got it. You know what I mean? I still struggle with that in all honesty, but you know, you just build up the trust with him, and it's like, cool. He knows me. He knows the sound. He's been working on these. He's been mixing them. He's been helping producing. So yeah, he's almost an extension of me at that point. So
Yeah, being
Now,
coachable.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Now with NIWIS, were there any songs that didn't make the cut? What was it? What was it? Okay, okay. How do you break that down? Because that's, look, you talking about a wide range in time where the album was cultivated. So how do you
hmm
decide what stays and what goes? What is gonna be most impactful? What is probably least impactful?
Man, that's one of the hardest processes as an artist, man. That one's tough because sometimes you'll make records, man, and you'll be in love with this record, or like it's no secret. This album is, if there's a concept to it, that's no secret. All my projects have a concept to it. So there's some songs you will make and you'll be like, man, this fits the concept so perfectly. Like this just takes it right where I need it to go. And then, you know, something to happen. Maybe the production won't, maybe the production was half done when you made the record. He's like, man, this is gonna be great. We just gotta finish up this production. It's gonna really be where it needs to be. Maybe the production doesn't come out the way that you want. Maybe you go and record it, you listen to it, you sit on it for a while, and you're like, man, I don't know. Or there's times where there's just great records, but then you just make other records and you're just like, man, this record is still getting across the point that I need to get across in this part of the album, and it's better. And then you just kind of have to go with that one because you don't want to have two records that's doing the same thing. It's like, hey, if you can tell this part of the story efficiently with this record, go with, then you go with that one. And then if you have another record that's doing the same thing, you got to weigh them out. Like, hey, is this record better than this record? You know what I mean? And it's tough, man, because sometimes you just fall in love with songs and you don't want to cut them. But yes, to answer your question, there were definitely records that got cut. Uh, I had a record called Mr. Anderson that I loved. Crazy name, I know, but it has a meaning to it. But it was called Mr. Anderson. That I love that record. It has such a good feel to it, such a good feel to it, and I ultimately ended up cutting it. Um, and I was like, dang, I was hurt. And basically, what happened was I ended up making another record that ended up taking the spot of that record, and I was unsure about the new record that took the spot of it, but eventually after a while, people would hear it and they'll be like, "Yo, no, this is the one." And so you end up cutting out a record that you love. But yeah, man, that happens all the time. Those are always tough, man. You just have a hard drive full of just records that didn't make it that are as equally as good, but you got to kind of do what's best for the project and what's going to make the overall album the best album that you can make it. So, but those songs, they find their way out in places. You release them or never release to them, and just I enjoy them personally myself.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, is there gonna be a chance we can hear them like a special edition version of the album, or like an EP or some mixtapes or something?
Maybe we get a deluxe. Maybe we get a
Yeah,
deluxe.
deluxe.
Maybe you do. Maybe I might. I don't know. Maybe a little. You never know. You never
Hey,
know.
if we just sprung that idea, then we need to shut up when the deluxe drops.
There was that idea. I'll say that idea was it was don't yeah it was baking for a while. That might be something that might happen. We'll see. We'll see. I have some other plans that I don't want to get too ahead of myself because people, I got to release this album, but I got some other things, man, that I've been working on. So again, shout out to 11. We got something that's kind of brewing a little bit.
Super dope. Super dope. Now, you said that each of the songs are a story to a wider message. What is the message that you're conveying to your fans when they listen to this
Uh, so obviously that time period, that I was going through, was just being at a low. I just want to like provide a soundscape a little bit for my listeners and let them know that, hey, there's avenues, there's ways through whatever that you're going through. But there's some special things that I want them to hear the album to really gather in and grasp. But it's just a journey, man, of me, and just really it's anyone who's just been going through some ups and downs and just trying to figure out life, man, and just ultimately how can I get to the point where I want to get to in life, and what are the things that matter and things that ultimately don't matter, things that you think are real that aren't really real. You know what I mean? It's like these aren't things that you know that you think is important, or you think that's like, oh, this is what this is, and it's you know you're wrong. So yeah, man, it's more so of that, but there's some stuff on it that yeah, I will just July 1st they'll get the full picture of it, but that's the gist of it. But yeah.
Now, to go ahead and unveil a little bit of mystery, why have we been calling it NIWIS this entire time?
You have to see, man. They'll have to see.
Okay, so no unveiling just yet. Now, for those who are just tuning, for those who are tuning in to Jules for the first time, and they're liking this and anticipating the album. For those who don't know, when is the album being released?
July 1st. July 1st, man. Next Friday. So yeah, I'm super excited. Try to give some music for the summer before the holiday, something for you guys to vibe too. So yeah, July 1st.
Fantastic. I will to wrap things up, I will say, listen, it has been a super dope honor to be able to go along with you during this journey over the last couple of years. We have done 3 interviews with you thus far. Hopefully we have many more to come with you. And to be able to have this exclusive with you is absolutely mind blowing for us. I know I can speak for myself, but I'm sure Kat would agree that it has been honestly truly rewarding to be able to sit down, talk to you, unpack your mind, um, listen to you, you know, talk about your baby in essence, talk about what this means to you. Uh, is there anything you want to say to the fans, to the new listeners before we wrap things up?
Gotcha. Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys like every time, man. Listen, as long as we're able to do this, I'm always here. You know what I mean? I'm always willing to sit down and talk with you guys. I enjoy this. Again, I feel like you guys are like distant family or something like that. So I always appreciate you guys, having me on here, and allowing me to speak about, this music and the thing that I love the most. So thank you guys for that. But yeah, I mean, I just say thank you, man. I know that I mentioned this earlier, but I know I've been talking about this album for so long. But I put so much hard work and dedication and just time, and I just put a lot into this project, man. So I want people to really sit down, take it in, enjoy it, hopefully learn something from it. If you're new to this, again, if you're new to me, just know that I put everything that I have into this. I don't try to slack on any bars, any hooks, any production, anything, concepts, just the overall story. I want this to be an immersive experience. So, yeah, man, I just hope people take in the record, and just sit with it, man. I wish if I could control it, I wish everyone can just put on headphones, a good pair of headphones, and sit down and just tune everything else out and just listen to the album. 'Cause I feel like there's some things in there, man, that can be very impactful and helpful in people's lives. So I hope that this, connects with people and helps them through anything they may be going through in life. But yeah, man, I'm really proud of this body of work. Really, really proud of it. Cad, you guys know I've been streaming it for a while, album of the year. And I don't say that just to say that as some type of like marketing scheme or just like, oh, no, I really, really, really mean that. Like, I feel confident that this is the album of the year. Yeah, man, I just hope people enjoy it, and I can't wait for them to hear it, man. I really can't.
Kat, any final words?
July 1st, like Jules said, put them headphones on, put the phone on Do Not Disturb. Let me think how to word this. And get ready for the ride. Get ready for the ride.
Exactly.
And with that being said, as always, y'all know why we do this. It is for literally one reason and one reason only, and because we love you. With that being said, I am your host, as always, Hitch Montana, with my co-host.
You know what it is? Old guys. Now we got Twitter. We got TikTok. That MOE Show 1 over on Twitter. That MOE Show over on TikTok. But it's your boy, Podcast Marv Albert. Just 2 guys doing the show from their mom's basement. It's your boy, Cadmean. Peace.
Thanks again to our interviewee, Jules. Appreciate you tuning in, being a part of this with us.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys, man.
Peace out, world.